Can we say that this is the Derrick White we expected when they traded for him? Just in
In the
terms of
playoffs. Yes.
just
Yeah.
right
He's
this
getting
game.
there. He's getting there.
No, everything
Yeah.
about this game I loved because he didn't just stand behind the three-point line and settle for that shot when the ball swung around to him. He attacked the paint and he didn't just attack and loop in. He
And
went in,
dish. Yeah.
he did
Right.
his floater game, he did his kind of little reversal spin. You know, he was looking to score on some of these possessions in addition to being an absolute pain in the ass defender. Fighting through, I mean, multiple screens. He had like that double block sequence there when he fought through a screen 3 times, to block a three-pointer, and then he's back around. He was just in people's business all day. Loose balls, offensive rebounds,
I
strips.
love it.
Everything about it was like, that's the guy you thought you were getting. But again, that assertiveness, I think the being without Marcus Smart, and knowing like I kind of got to carry it a little bit. These last couple of games Derrick White has been wearing that well. So hats off to him. Everyone's saying who gets the brownie. Derrick White gets the friggin' brownie. Brownie doesn't get the brownie,
Oh,
and it's not even.
Horford?
No, get Bobby. Come on.
It was
I like
close.
that.
I'll give it
I
a
like
White.
that.
I'll give it a White. It was
Yeah,
close.
I think White definitely deserves the brownie. It's not supposed
Oh,
to
come
be the
on.
best player on the court to get the
Listen,
brownie.
you better get the brownie goes to Hendrick's daddy. Okay,
That's right.
the most recent
I'll
Hendrick's
roll
daddy,
with it.
not
Yes,
the original one,
yes,
but the most recent one.
yes.
Yeah, be
Give it to
specific.
Hendrick's daddy. What?
He
What
deserves
was
it.
Bobby?
We're gonna tell-
Was Bobby? Were you thinking
We're gonna
Jalen
tell
deserved the
Hendricks
brownie?
that- we're gonna
No,
tell
I
Hendricks
was
that
going.
was
I
the
was
X
going with
factor.
Horford.
He was the
Okay.
X factor of the season.
No.
Brown. I don't know.
Well,
what Brown
here's why
Brown's in the
Derrick White
first
gets
half,
it.
but-
Derrick-
Horford is doing this. Horford has been doing this the entire postseason. So
Yeah.
what he did tonight was nothing
Yeah.
unusual or out of the ordinary. It
Derrick
didn't put him
White-
over the top. Derrick did.
Saved
That's a
them
good argument.
from themselves in the first half. And again, oh, you're all haters because you're pointing out how freaking miserable they all played in the first half, but they were miserable. Tatum with the and like, come on, man, just play.
Yeah.
Butler can
Here you
barely
go.
walk. He's not complaining every 2 seconds. Just play. He was off. His head was out of it. That Duncan Robinson 3 that he just looked at him and let him shoot it. I don't
That
know what
pissed me.
that
one
pissed me off.
pissed
in
me
ways
off so.
I took my phone after Jalen's first 2 turnovers. I was like, nope, I am not rage tweeting this half. I am not going to
You
do it.
scored 17 in the first.
I couldn't do it. But Derrick White saved them. He's the only guy who was balling the
Yes.
whole time. He kept it together. It was obvious Marcus wasn't right. You had a quick sub there, too, on Marcus, right? He went out like the 4-minute mark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
he picked up 2 quick fouls. So I
2
think that
quick
had
fouls,
something
and he
to
went
do.
out at the
He
4-minute
got
mark,
4
right?
by the third.
Yeah, so White came in, he saved them, and then Tatum and Brown showed up in the second half. Brown, and again, we didn't. I blipped out a little bit when you guys were talking about Jaylen. Jaylen, not just everyone. You know what I think sometimes we do too much with Jaylen. We judge just based on makes and misses, and he gets hot, and everyone's like, "Ooh, there he was." I thought his turnaround in the second half was really more about, I know what I'm doing and I have to stop doing it. He stopped dribbling into traffic. He stopped trying to force the issue, and he made quick reads, quick passes, extra passes, relocated, spotted up, shot quickly, and he became more of a spot up shooter, which is again probably something you have to do when you realize, like, okay, they're hounding me. I'm trying to be aggressive. I'm trying to dribble in. They've got quick hands. They're swarming me in the paint. I'm turning it over. He just stopped. He stopped doing it. He didn't do it. He didn't do it once in the second half. So I'm going to credit him. Not as the shot started falling and he hit those couple dagger threes and the friggin' dunk, obviously. Like, he had massive highlight worthy plays and the scoring was huge, but he completely changed his approach. It's like he got a lobotomy at halftime and just like a brain
that's the
transplant.
key.
And he came out
happened early and
totally
they had the
different.
halftime.
And the
Yep.
intensity too. Like, you talk about energy shifting. His energy completely shifted, but also he just played so much more in control. So I will give like a major hats off to Brown just for being. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No,
What do you got?
I was gonna let you finish. I was gonna piggyback off that. Not
Go for it,
forcing
yeah.
it. Not forcing it.
Didn't
you know?
force
That-
anything.
Yeah, right.
Everything
That's what
came
it's
to
about.
him and he played it clean. Yeah.
Yeah, and when he's not forcing it, he's not turning over, then he's not thinking about the turnovers, then those plays aren't going into the next place because it was like almost like one after another on some of those turnovers in the first quarter. You knew it was like mental at that point, like he's thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So just do less, think less, and just play your game. Let the game come to you sometimes. These guys are good enough where the game can go to them. They don't have to always try to make something happen. And you also have to trust your teammates. Find you in the right place. Get you those threes. You know, when he does decide he's going to drive, don't be head down thinking like I have to put this ball up. This has to go in. Keep your head up. Look around. See where your guys are getting open for you. So I agree with you, John, and I agree with everything else you guys said about Brown in the second half. Just a completely different player, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean apologize for what happened, for what you said about him in the first half, because both things can be true.
Yeah, we
And-
weren't allowed to say something bad about him when he shot 5 for freaking 20 last game. So I mean,
Right.
there's
No.
And,
Yeah,
and
they
again,
weren't trying
like,
to hear it.
it's not a Jaylen Brown thing. Like we've been doing this on the show all for 3 seasons now.
I
If
just
you
want to ask the
suck,
chat, how
we
would you
say you
how would
suck.
you
If you don't suck, we say you don't suck. It's not hating.
how would the
Anyway,
chat have felt if they lost this game the way the Heat played? Like that just would have been unimaginable.
what'd you say, Bob?
I was gonna say, how would the chat have felt if the Celtics lost this game the way the Heat played? Because again, it was just unfathomable that the Celtics were behind the way the Heat were shooting and just running offense as a whole.
Bots are
But
back.
but Bobby, the reason that the Heat were leading in the first half were the points they were getting off turnovers. I mean,
That's what
you
I'm
look at-
saying.
Yeah.
So
so
it
Points
so
off turnover,
it's-
second chance
got
points.
28 of 42 points were preventable. Okay, between the second chance points and the points off of turnovers, 16 and 12. 28 of the 42 points the Heat scored in the first half were entirely self-inflicted preventable points. It was incredible. Their offense was so bad that if the Celtics didn't gift them 2/3 of their freaking points, they might have scored 20 points in the first half.
It
That's
would've
how
been-
bad their
yeah.
offense was.
Yeah.
It would have stopped them.
It literally could have been a
It would've-
30-point half. It was that bad.
Yeah.
If the Celtics played even this close to near their level in the first half, this would have been like a 55-30 game at the half and just friggin' another absolute laugher. It was only because the Celtics offense was so freaking abysmal that the game was close at any point. But did anybody feel they were gonna? The Heat were so bad. Did anybody feel the Celtics were gonna lose this? I mean, they would have had
I
to
didn't.
literally. They would have had to play that bad for 4 quarters. I just didn't see that happening.
Well, I didn't see that the Celtics were their poor play was a reflection of the Heat's defense. Like I'm watching Tatum miss open shots. I'm watching guys turn the ball over, and the
Yeah,
Heat. It's not like they're
self-inflicted.
pressuring them. Yeah, and so you figure if they just figure out make the proper halftime adjustment, and to me, the game changer was Jaylen Brown deciding not to be a drive and finish at the rim guy. He pretty much everyone they match up against him, he can shoot over the top of them. And so what did he start
Right.
doing in the second half? He just starts shooting over the top of them. And they're so focused on not allowing JT to get into the paint that Jaylen Brown is open on the wing. And so he's knocking out wide open
It just
or
has
lightly
to
contested
move.
threes.
It has
Yeah,
to
that's
move
all.
faster.
They were
It's all about decision making. I think what they were doing, I think what worked for them a little bit last game, I think they tried to do again, particularly with Jaylen, is they're hunting mismatches. You knew you could go at Strus. You knew when Duncan Robinson was in the game, you could go at him. They were trying really hard to work on those, but the Heat did a good job, kind of flashing, giving that quick double, and they were just allowing themselves to dribble into it. And when you'd get through that first guy, all the Celtics in the first half were just stationary, it felt like. So again, there's nowhere for the guy to go, and they could just collapse the paint on him. You're just going into a forest. It just isn't going to work that way. You have to
Right.
attack it quick. And you saw a couple things that Tatum did and Brown did, which is what I love. Get to a spot and rise up. They don't do that enough. The elbow jumper, the baseline jumper, you don't always have to take it all the way. You've got the length. When Brown smelled Vincent on him a couple times late, and he's like, I'm just going to shoot up and over this guy. He's got that
Right.
great jab step, turnaround, rise up, fade away, where he can get into the lane and shoot that. That's a free throw. I mean, he's going to make 60% of those. I like seeing
Right.
them incorporate some of those. And then, yeah, I mean, he was spotting up and hitting from the corner, and the Celtics did a good job moving the ball. But yeah, they were just driving into nowhere land
Yeah.
all over again for no reason at all.
I think
to you
that's spot
guys'
on, John.
points,
Like that's
Yeah.
exactly what the Miami Heat wanted him to do, and he kept falling for it over and over and over again. I'm like, you're going into the. It's like sometimes Jaylen Brown just wants to blow by his defender,
And
go straight to the
sometimes
rim.
it's just
And the
what they
Miami Heat
need
know
too.
that.
Right.
Right. Well, yeah, that
But
too. But also
you got to take what the
Heat-
game gives you. Right.
Exactly. The defense was reading that every single time, and he wouldn't adjust. He wouldn't adjust to the second half, and that made a big difference for sure.
well, the Heat made it easy to adjust too because they had to go small. I mean, their offensive issues just reached such a point of desperation that they had to cut Deadman out. They had to go to those smaller lineups, and there's really no way around the fact that when they go smaller, it's going to open up the whole world for Tatum. Even if he's not scoring, just getting to the right places on the floor to make a play. I mean, those Miami small ball lineups have been dreadful when it comes to trying to keep the Celtics in front of them there. And they need to do it because they're just not scoring enough. And you've reached such a point of desperation offensively if you're Miami. You put yourself in a bad spot by putting those out on the floor. Robinson, yeah, he gets going for a few shots, but he instantly becomes that target. And he's just such a weak link on the floor. You see why he wasn't playing before. And this is what Josue and I talked about after the last game in one of our segments. It's
Yeah, we did.
startling how thin the Heat are. Like they seemed like the deepest team in the world coming into this. And now it's just like, oop, you can't play Duncan. Strus is hurt. Lowry, you can't play him. Deadman, you can't play him. And all of a sudden, what do they have,
Hero.
five guys? Yeah, Hero's hurt.
Yeah.
So
And we
they,
didn't
they're
even
on
Hero.
mention him
paper.
earlier.
Can we
Hero didn't
talk
even
about
play
Hero's
tonight.
outfit?
Like,
Oh my God. I can't. That's something to me, and I
Twitter
can't
was
figure
too
out what
funny
it
with
is.
that.
that's Miami, man.
Someone said
That's
he
what
looks
Bobby
like
was
a,
walking around looking like.
Yeah, he
That
looks
was-
like a club owner in Miami. What was another one?
But like the way the
he
shirt
looks
was,
like-
like the shoulders were like puffed up. He just looked weird. The whole thing, you know.
All right. What was worse, or what look stood out more? Ben Simmons, the infamous Ben Simmons look, or the Hero look tonight?
Hero.
I like
gotta
the
be
joke. I
Ben,
like the
right?
Joker.
Yeah, the Joker. I
goatee
at least,
going.
yeah, I kind of go with the Joker with that one.
Yeah.
He had the goatee that just screamed out, "Never trust that guy." Like, he just said it on his face. Like, I don't
Against
trust
all the black jerseys around him, too.
Tyler Hero can never be taken seriously again.
But what was that? Why did he do that?
Sorry, he can't be
Sorry,
taken
yeah.
seriously again. You should revoke his sixth man award for that outfit. It was just
I mean, this is
a freaking
this is just-
disgrace.
I can't. Oh man, this team, one win from the finals. Just what a special opportunity they have here. Like the way they started this year, the place they were in January. We can tell the story a million times, but it never gets any less amazing. Just think of where we all were. We go back to January and we say, all right, does this team have a chance to make the NBA Finals? We'd be like, in 2024 maybe, but to turn it around this year, to get within one win of the finals, this defense sustaining like it has, reaching this level of play, these guys figuring it out offensively and connecting enough. And I do think this game was emblematic of just how much better they've become as a passing team into that second half. Great plays all around, great connectivity. It's just such a great group. You really like watching this team at this point, despite some of their flaws that pop up from time to time. And they just really have such a special opportunity this year. They took the tough path. They've fought through injuries. They've gotten big contributions from a variety of players across the board here. The latest White. It's just a special team, and they really have that feel when we talk about the resiliency of a champion. The 6 straight wins, and I say 6 because of the game 7 after losses and being down with their back against the wall. The turnaround in this game after the first half. It just has that feel. It really does. And you got to get it done at home here. You don't want to bring it back to Miami for a game 7. So that's obviously where we'll look next. But I don't know. I never felt it with the Heat from the start. I just never got it about them. I know injuries have creeped in. They've completely changed how this team looks. But I watched them all year, and I see them in the half court, and I'm just like, there's nothing here, and not a lot of shooting, not a lot of spacing, not a lot of playmaking, not a lot of guys who really want to shoot the ball. Like how hesitant are so many of these guys to just put a shot up?
Not just that. I mean, how many times did they have wide open threes? Oladipo hit the other side of the backboard on one.
Yes.
Tyler
Yeah.
Hero pulled. I mean,
wa-
Lowry pulled up from one, and he would have airballed it on like an 8-foot hoop that was 3 feet closer. Like it was nowhere near. It bounced like in the middle of the paint. Like it wasn't even close.
I had to lower the subwoofer on my TV. That's how loud some of these studs were.
Some of
coming
them
off
just
the backboard.
gong. You could
I had to
hear
lower the
thuds. It was like Thor's hammer, like it was just
unbelievable.
crashing off the backboard.
It's
Gonna get
bad when
noise
the commentator
complaint.
goes, oof.
It was
Commentator
bad.
got
And
one of
that's the
those.
thing.
But,
When you're counting on people who aren't day in, day out contributors as regular members, they're going to turn into pumpkins, And so,
They
like, you
expire.
get your flashes from your Martins and your Vincents and Oladipos and things like that. That's not going to repeat itself. And that's the problem is like Miami's just counting too much on these guys because their star players are banged up. It just can't. Yeah, it's just not going to work. And again,
Yeah.
it really is a matter of like, you know, who's like not horrible really is gonna win this. But like Miami's horrible
Yeah.
right now. And I just
Yeah.
don't I think they felt it too. They're like,
They shot 17% in the third.
we're
Yeah, they
bad,
felt it because they haven't put up a performance like this all postseason. So of course they definitely felt it. But yeah, John, I think that's spot on as well. I feel like going into this one, I was thinking, okay, Marcus is back, Robert's back to whatever extent that is. Which of course Ime said like Rob, we're gonna try to keep him out, when we can, but there's no restrictions.
Yeah.
And they don't have Tyler Hero. Again, a guy who I was still thinking could have one of those games. One of the few players on that team that could put the ball on the floor, score on his own, take guys one-on-one off the dribble.
That's
And
it.
I'm like, look, if the Celtics can't pull this off, if they can't win this game, then they're not ready for this moment. And look, that would have been the case. That would have been
He
easily
can
been
create.
the case.
Right now they don't have anyone who can.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
yeah, tonight was that Victor Oladipo welcome back to earth moment. 1 for 7.
Same for Lowry.
With 3 points. Yeah. I mean, well, Lowry's kind of
Lowry
sucked
hasn't
most
been
of the
off the whole
series.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Sherrod, since you have a good
rest-
view, let me ask you: when Smart and Rob are out there, and you're kind of keeping an eye on them both, when they're in, like I said, there's a lot of times Rob seemed to be, and Jimmy tweeted about it, kind of taking his time getting back on certain trips down. You could tell he wasn't sprinting up and down the court, and seemed to be conserving himself a little bit on some trips. And he'd had long stints on the bench. But how did those guys look coming off to you? Were they kind of gimpy? Were they just the way you're looking at them? Did they look way off injury wise, both Smart and Rob?
I thought Smart actually looked a lot better than I thought. The one thing to me, he was just solid. And for Marcus, that's not the measurement stick that he wants to be at. He was solid, but Marcus is usually spectacular. Makes a great hustle play, whether it's diving for a loose ball, forcing in turn, doing something that's kind of game altering. And he didn't do any of that really in this game, but he was solid. And let's be honest, Jimmy Butler's not healthy. Kyle Lowry can't make a shot. So for Marcus Smart, his workload was much lighter. And Bam is scared, basically. And one of the things that I thought was really, really important that I don't know if people picked up on this, but Al Horford spent a lot of time guarding Jimmy Butler. A lot of time. And Jimmy could not beat him off the dribble. Jimmy could not get to a spot. And I thought his ability to neutralize Butler was huge because it afforded the rest of those guys who, as we pointed out, they don't have anyone who can really get buckets other than Jimmy. And if Al's able to neutralize him and go out and get you 16, 7, and 5 dimes, you don't need Rob to be out there.
And you can get away with someone like Horford doing that because you're really not worried about Butler beating you from 3 or on the perimeter. He's getting into the paint, he's getting those paint touches, getting his body into people and creating those shots, and that's his bread and butter. All game long, whether all series long or certainly the last few games, when Horford tonight, but when Rob is there lurking as well, Butler just doesn't know where to go. You could see the Heat enter the paint, and then they're like, and now I'm going to leave the paint, every single time. They don't want to be there.
Right.
It's been an interesting series. Who would have thought? I know we were talking about Horford on Butler here. Who would have thought the Rob return would have been this impactful? Because the reality is, the other points in the series the other times he played a little bit in Brooklyn and through the Milwaukee series, Celtics actually were better when he was off the court. They weren't better when he didn't play because that meant you had to suffer through Tice minutes instead of mediocre Rob minutes. But in the games he played, they were better with him off than on because he wasn't really himself. Why is it so different now?
Well, the Heat, frankly, they have a couple of guys that can knock down shots from the perimeter, but for the most part, the Celtics' strength is their perimeter defenders. So the Heat, in that instance, you're looking to finish at the rim. Rob prevents that from happening. So now you look at a lot of the injuries that Miami has there on the perimeter, so they can't knock down shots the way they normally can. They can't get to the hole because Rob's there, and that's why his impact is so much greater because Miami doesn't have a counter when Rob's on the floor. If their counter is we'll just shoot jump shots, the Celtics will be like, okay,
Go nuts.
Do it.
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And they took
exactly.
45 of them in this one, Sherrod, and the percentage didn't look great, right? Like, it was out of desperation, I thought, a lot of times. But when you look at the way the Celtics were playing defense in that second half, they needed someone to come up big. They needed someone like Jimmy that was just gonna, take matters to his own hand. And it just never happened. You look at the Celtics defense, man, it's just again, I can't say this enough. It's so different when Rob's out there. It's like the difference between a team going on that game defining run and the Celtics being able to lock down a team, hold them to 80 points after holding them to 82 points 2 nights ago. Like this stuff doesn't happen nowadays in the NBA. Like this is the definition of the best defense in the NBA. This is a championship defense, and they certainly play like one today.
Yeah, and he's giving you stuff at both ends. Obviously, both sides of the court are connected. So you have more opportunities to get him rim runs. Offensive rebounds at the net was super important for him here in this one, hitting Robinson with that fourth foul there and getting free throws for himself. He doesn't score a lot. He doesn't take a lot of shots, but he just makes your offense better. And when your offense is more stable and together and has more outlets, you're not going to be giving up as many transition runs and breakouts and live ball misses and turnovers and such. So he's still getting better on that end as well. But as Josue said there, it's all about the defense. Sherrod, great point. Playing off Tucker and some of these other guys, he can really stay in the lane. And Miami, unlike Brooklyn with Durant and Giannis in last series especially, which just made it such a bad matchup for Rob, is that guys aren't targeting him one-on-one. There's really no one on the Heat side. I guess you could say Bam should be that guy,
Bam is
but he
soft.
hasn't been. So there's really no one out there that can target.
SAWFT.
Yeah, there's no one out there that can target Robin Tate.
Soft.
And yeah, you
He's
can't
soft,
really
kid.
say you really
Soft.
can't say enough about Bam, right? Because Lowry,
Not
Butler,
fair.
all these different
I can
guys.
say a lot about him.
Yeah, all these other guys, they're dealing with stuff. Unless he's really hiding something, Bam's the healthy guy out there. He should be setting the tone for them. He should be trying to take Rob out of the game, and he can't.
But you know
He ain't
what,
about
Bobby?
that
Though,
life.
not only that, but his game is ridiculously one-dimensional. When was the last time he made a shot that wasn't like head on toward the basket? He doesn't shoot from the elbows. He doesn't shoot from the corners. He literally shoots in front of the paint. If you force him to take a shot that's not literally when you
Yeah.
first learn how to play the game right in front of the rim, he's not
He got it
doing a whole
going in
lot.
game 3, but it wasn't sustainable,
And
right?
you can
Right.
ignore him there too. And that's the thing, is he's just not a threat anywhere but
No.
close to the basket. So you can
He
almost
turns his
sag
shoulder.
off
He
of
does
him.
that thing where he's just looking for like 3 different options
He always
of who
wants
to
to
pass
hand
it
it
to.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, like he gets there, he's in position to score, and then he turns around. I'm telling you, but he didn't do that in that big game that he had where Rob wasn't in the middle. You know,
Well, he was looking to
I just
attack,
feel
but
like it was a difference.
he's really not a guy who beats you off the dribble. He's not a guy who scores from the perimeter. Bam. So I mean,
Right.
it's again, he's just got to go to work inside, and it's just he's afraid of Rob. What are you
He's-
gonna do?
Yeah, he's just not that player. He's just not that guy. He's just not that
Sorry,
guy.
it's not about that.
At this stage in his career, he's not
It's not
him.
about that life. No,
No.
But
he
why
doesn't
did he
want
go
any Rob.
backwards? 2 years ago he was.
And that's what cracks me up
too.
too. He's terrific when you're feasting on Daniel Tyson and his canter and rookie Rob, but Rob's all grown up, my man. Okay, he's all
Right.
grown up right now, and you don't want anything to do with it. Okay, it's a different Rob. It's a different Rob.
But you know
That
what
kid's
though?
a man now.
What's
He's a
up,
man.
Jimmy?
We don't expect Rob to drop 25, 30, and that's what I think the Heat are expecting from Bam, and he's just not that guy. And
Yeah.
so the difference
Right,
between
great
the
point.
Celtics and the Heat are that the Heat are capable of playing solid defense, but they're not capable of getting hot like the Celtics are behind Tatum and Brown, and if another guy or two like Al gets hot, they just don't have that. So what the Celtics are able to do, if they start off cold like they have in the playoffs at certain points, they survive on their defense until the offense gets there. And then the offense gets there in the second half or whenever it does. And then that's when they stretch the leads out. So it's almost like, you're obviously relying on their defense to win, but you need that offensive burst that the Heat just don't have and the Celtics do. That's kind of the difference in these games. It reminds me of the Bucks series a lot. I mean, there was a plenty of games where the Celtics did not come out strong, and you're like, wow, they're only down 7 right now, or they're only down 5, and it feels like they should be down a lot more. Well, their defense kept them in the game, and then all they had to do was just play okay on the
The
offensive
Bucks
end.
couldn't separate. Yeah.
Exactly, the Bucks couldn't separate, and the Heat can't either. They couldn't tonight. I mean, we have seen them separate, previous games, but I just don't think at this point in the series they're capable of doing it. You can credit the Celtics, you can blame the Heat's health. It's really a combination of both things. And for that reason, I think the Celtics shouldn't have an issue on Friday night, which